Hello and good morning. Welcome to another edition of Welcome to Wake Up to Your Life Magic. My name is Dr. Helmut Love, and I am your host. Our show is really dedicated to elevating conversations in business through having conversations that we're not having today. If you want to learn more about the book, and the movement, check out wakeuptoyourlifemagic.com. And today I have with me a man who has bought and sold businesses helping individuals to generate wealth through that process, Mr. Richard Parker. Hey, Richard.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
How are you? And where are you coming in from today?
I'm in South Florida, Southeast Florida, and doing great and excited to be
Awesome.
here.
Well, yeah, no, I'm excited to have you. And I mentioned a little bit there what you did. What else can you highlight about your business to people who are maybe listening in? Just want to know what you do outside of answering some fun questions.
Okay. Well, we'll decide if they're fun questions or not, and I'm sure there will be. Given our last conversation, you've got a great sense of humor, so I'm sure there will be fun questions. So, as you mentioned briefly, I've been in the world of buying and selling businesses for wow, 35 years. It was 35 years recently. All aspects, the buy side, sell side, investing. I've purchased 14 of my own companies and provided and continue to provide advisory and investment banking type services to individuals looking to buy or sell their companies. And investment banking, I mean, it's just fancy terminology really for a business broker. But the connotation is just larger businesses. So all sides of the world, the universe of buying and selling businesses.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Richard. And I appreciate you
Of
spending the
course.
time with me today. So, one question I like to ask up front is just a question about your own story and an inflection point, a moment that was significant in shifting you in your life trajectory. And I just thought you could share something so that the audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Personal or business?
Either one, whichever one you think would kind of help us connect to you.
So if I try to do the like the Venn diagram, if you will, of intersecting business and personal, because one really bleeds into the other, I would say probably when I went through a divorce, actually. It had some pretty, there was a lot of collateral damage, but there were some unintended consequences on the good side, I think, but some as well, that weren't very positive. But, I was a very young business owner. I owned my first company at 29 years old. Um, and it took me a lot of years, probably to, when I say a lot, probably till I was 35, 36, 37, to start realizing how unimportant it was to be right as opposed to doing right and getting it right. And I think I just had an ego and some insecurities because I was a young business owner. As I was always in a room with people that were more experienced than I was. And then I finally, when I embraced being the dumbest person in the room, as opposed to trying to be the smartest person in the room, my universe changed. I just started to surround myself with people that were much bigger, better, faster than me, and my business has exploded. And the reason why I talk about that related to a divorce is because that was really a defining moment when I was able to look back and reflect why my marriage had failed. And a lot had to do with ego and being right. And that really bled into my business life. So, in a crazy way, going through that divorce was actually the best thing that could happen to my business. And then I ultimately got remarried. So it certainly was the best thing to happen to me on the personal side. But, one really bled into the other. And I hope that makes sense for you and your audience, because it really was a defining moment as far as, the way I looked at myself, the way I look at business, the way I look at other people.
Yeah, no, I think it is very defining, and they're all of our worlds are all connected, right? So this concept of, like, your work, your health, your finances, your relationships, they are all connected.
Yep.
And I see, and I actually completely agree. Life, there is a process of the death of ego, and I don't mean the complete death of it, right? But
Yep.
unless you realize that there are other egos around you and that we're all getting there together,
Yeah.
it life keeps bringing you things to make that clear to you, right? To
Yeah. No.
remind you.
Yeah. No. It makes sense. And I think it would be pretty crazy for anyone to suggest, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, that you can't have any ego. I mean, I think that's really like, I think that's too far. I mean, because
Yes, agreed.
you need some ego and pride, and ego from a standpoint of probably not being deterred by failures. Like, it takes a
Right.
combination of being insane and a little bit of ego to keep coming back for more, right? You know, after you get punched in the head a bunch of times. So I think the ego is always part of it. You can't have none, but being able to really check it at the door at more often than not, and to really put it aside in relationships, business, personal, etc. So I think so I guess it's probably like just, real good self-awareness, right? I mean,
Yeah. And passion, I think it's the shift is then it's the passion that's driving you as the entrepreneur or the business leader, the passion to serve, to help, to create, to improve the world. Now all of a sudden we're talking about something that isn't just to serve me, but it's to serve others and therefore me.
yeah, and it's a really good point, because when I talk with aspiring entrepreneurs, I try to explain to them, I've had the luxury of working with some ridiculously successful people, billionaires. And I try to explain to them that the most successful entrepreneurs that I've worked with, for the most part, and really like a big percentage, they never really focused on the money.
Hmm.
Like, their attitude and their mission, if you will, was, I'm going to build a great company, and I'm going to do that by the following, and that would be, empowering people, or creating something that fills a need, that helps the lives of X number of people, that I serve people, whatever that looks like, serve my customers, serve my vendors, serve my employees, serve my partners, what have you. So you know it's a it's a philosophical approach. And passion, if you're going to think I'm a little wacko, I think passion is a little overrated, meaning, like, your passion really grows. So when you start off, people looking to become entrepreneurs say, well, I got to do something I'm passionate about. Well, you don't really know what that is, because that may not match well with your skill set. But once you get into entrepreneurship, and you're improving your life, you're making more money, you're improving the life of others, you're giving more to charity, you're spending more time on philanthropic endeavors, even at a very small level, working Saturday afternoon at a local animal shelter or whatever, but you're able to, and building up employees and empowering them. That's where the passion comes, right, from all these things coming together. So it's actually a pretty cool evolution, and I've seen it, when I see it, I've seen it firsthand a number of times, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, that is it is great to see, witness, and also aspire to.
Yes, yes, correct.
So, so tell me a little bit about, as you're doing what you're doing um, in your work. How are you? Like, what kind of vision are you chasing? What would you like to create because of what you've done?
When I have two very distinct aspects to the business, and one is representing business owners selling their businesses, and that's really the world of investment banking, and but separate and apart from that. And so we do some wonderful things for people, provide them with an exit and a nice liquidity event, and I get enormous satisfaction in that aspect of the business. But where I devote a reasonable amount of time and always feel like I derive such great gratification is from the side where we work with individuals that are looking to change their lives, transform their lives, become entrepreneurs, acquire a business. And that was a course we developed, 20 years ago. It's evolved quite an incredible amount over the years. We still sell a crazy amount of them, but went into that business never to make money. Went into that business because I really wanted to help the average person who was trying to change their life. And I recognize how complex the process of buying a business is for most people who've never done it. And so I went into that in the help business with the attitude of just want to be in the help business with no aspirations of selling any. I mean, that's sort of crazy. And here we are all these years later, sold 100,000 plus copies of it. So I really feel at this stage in my life that the part of me that really can teach people is really it's even a heightened level of gratification than it was 10 years ago, because I really, you become a little more reflective as you get older, and so making a dent in the world um, can really come from changing people's lives who were working somewhere, and now they went from employee to employer. So that's really where focus is, as far as a contribution, I guess. Your mic is off, I believe.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, that makes so much sense in that you're basically, yes, you're creating the liquidity for the person who's selling, and that's joyful. But this process of raising up someone who then has this dream of being the owner, and I can see that. I remember my first home purchase was already stressful. I can imagine a business purchase being next level. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it is.
um,
Doesn't
that's
have to
beautiful.
be that way, but yes, and because you buy a home, that even if you overpay
Yeah.
a little bit, if you overpay a little bit, and you could make the mortgage payments, the real estate, it's time heals every real estate area. Unlike with a business, if you buy the wrong business, or you make some big mistakes during the process, you'll be out of business. So you have to do it in a really good way. And I understand the anxiety, and like most things in life, most new initiatives, if you educate yourself and you attach yourself to people that have been successful in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you could really mitigate the downside substantially. You
Yeah.
just don't want to be flying by the seat of your pants, right?
Truth. So I'm so curious, um, having sold and helped people purchase so many of these businesses, right? Um, a key construct or concept in Wake Up to Your Life Magic that I review is sort of the core of business, meaning business at its core was actually a construct of love, meaning, I loved myself enough to go, I always use this example, to go, grow tomatoes. You loved yourself enough to go kill deer, right? And we'd exchange those things, right, from our businesses to not just love ourselves, love our families, love each other, right? All right. So that's kind of the construct that business is about, serving and all those things. And as spiritual, moral, loving, connected beings, they can serve a purpose that's really amazing in the world. How do you feel about spirituality, purpose, morality, connection in business leadership in general in the world today? And how would you want to see it shift if you do?
That's a great question, deep question, a lot of layers there, but there's one part that really resonates with me. So I'll get to that in 1 second. You raise a really crucial question, I think, at a really important time in history, right? Because I'm not a wise guy. I'm just an old guy. So having gone through 35 years of business plus, or working, there's been some drastic changes. And I am actually deeply concerned, because I really see people getting away terribly far from what I think is the fundamental foundation to business, and it transcends business. I mean, interpersonal, whatever. If you could attack your business and run your business, people that are deeply spiritual, deeply religious, whatever that may be, because all religions are good unless they're radicalized, right? I mean, they're all good. The core is all good, no matter what you are. So if you could adopt that, and that taking care of people mentality to your employees and customers and vendors, always going to be a better business. But I think the one thing that you touched on to me is which I've been teaching and preaching really of late, which is that the connection, the comment you made related to the connection. I think there's been a terrible severing of the human connection in business. I think it transcends into relationships as well. I mean, you see a couple sitting in a restaurant out for dinner on a Saturday night, and both on their goddamn phones. I mean, it's like frightening to me. But you see that in business too, where people are forgetting this human connection. And in my universe, it's critical, because I tell people all the time, the numbers are important. Yes, the breakdown of the business, the margins, all that stuff, everything related to due diligence, the contracts, the legals, all of this. But if you don't form a human connection to the person on the other side, that should be your number one priority, because most of the other stuff is binary, right? Numbers are numbers. Numbers don't lie, people do. So most of the stuff is binary. So when you're starting out in these transactions, form a meaningful relationship with the person on the other side. And that to me, and that to me transcends every part of business and personal relationships. But with vendors, with clients, you're looking to buy their business or sell them their business, form the human connection. Because if you can get that in place, and you can establish a credible, trusting relationship where you can go back and forth and deal with problems, you can always resolve the issues. But people want to have these, they want to do everything digitally or through AI or whatever. And it doesn't, you're never going to get away from the people with the human connection are always going to win. They're always going to win.
I agree 150%. And I will say that, the temptation of, I think the reason for the loss of the connection, I guess I'd say, is we are a civilization obsessed with efficiency, right? Because it reduced costs and is an ultimate capitalism, right? So capitalism let me be clear. I love capitalism. Or I wouldn't see a China that's been raised up and an India
Right.
that's been raised up. Right, we've taken countries of terrible poverty, right, and completely revolutionized them with capitalism to share wealth with the world, right? And it's been
Yep.
great. But I feel like that's like there's an edge to that, right? And the edge is the humanity part, right? Because at some point you go, hey, everything's about numbers, everything's about reduction of cost, and what you get down to is at some point it's the humans and time that are the cost, right? That's what you can remove.
Correct.
So we've removed the time as much as possible, right? We are efficient with our time, but that reduces human connection. And then honestly, we're looking for ways to replace humans, which also reduces our connection to the job if you're an employee, to the employees if you're the boss, to the partner, to the investor, to the client even. I've seen so many corporate businesses that have lost the real connection to the client's outcome, which is actually damaging.
Yeah. The we've gotten really good at efficiencies. So I guess we could say we've gotten very efficient, but we've gotten really bad at effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a staunch difference, right? Because machines are efficient, or should be looked at whether or not a machine is or isn't efficient, but humans have to be measured in effectiveness. And that is an effectiveness from a standpoint, as an employee, are they doing their job? Yes or no? Are they effective or not effective? But also on the personal side, and this goes, with a boss dealing with an employee or whatever, or in a personal side, in a personal relationship, is the effectiveness of the relationship. And you can confuse the two. I mean, efficiency, when you try to add efficiencies where it should be, what you're looking at is effectiveness, I think you run into trouble. And hopefully explaining that really well from how I see things, which is a very clear separation of effectiveness and efficiency. There's certain efficiencies you want to work towards, but the effectiveness, and you grow a business most often by having really effective people and efficient systems.
Yeah, I one other thought that made me consider is almost the scary normalcy that we as humans have adopted, with sort of the numbness of that. Meaning, um, we're almost used to things being ineffective. So I'll use an example of something simple. I thought of, like, we go to the store. You may interact with the cashier, or you may ignore them entirely because you're on a phone call. You're in a, you're looking up the directions to the next place you're going. Of course, you're dealing with your kids. That's connection. But you are sort of in your own bubble, and you may or may not remember them, engage with them, right? And they may either then go into machine mode, right? Or they're connecting. And it's a simple moment, but it happens so many times throughout our day when we're really just getting used to being isolated right next to one another. Um, and I wonder,
Yeah, no.
what's that actually doing to our psyche as
Well,
humans?
if you take it in a vacuum and saying, well, that particular one interaction at the
Yes.
grocery store is really not significant. But if you put that to the power of 10 and you have 20 such similar interactions during the course of the day, that means you have 140 of them over the course of a week, means you have 560 of them over the course of the month,
Yeah.
and close to 7,000 of them over the course of the year. And then over 10 years, it's 70,000 multiplied by all the people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
exponentially, it's insane. And it, technology, the personal digital babysitter that we all get with our phones and whatever, and scroll, to me, that's like, I, to me, that's the killer. And don't get me wrong, I use it. It's a very effective
We're
tool.
using it now.
Yeah, we're using it now. It's a very effective tool, but being able to digitally shut down is is very, very effective. And um, when you're giving the example of your the cashier. So I try to bike 10 miles every morning, and not rigorous, but a good pace. But I go through this. I do the same uh, route, not far from my house, and I see sometimes you see similar people on it that are either jogging, walking, or biking, and it's amazing how many people don't say good morning. Like I pass everybody, say good morning. Even the ones that I know that never say good morning, I still say good morning to them because now I'm at the point that I think I'm pissing them off, which is good. But it's amazing that you pass people on the road and they don't even say good morning. Like and you have other people that are walking and they're busy with their phone. I mean, it's pretty frightening. I would love to be able to have this. I thought about it. My wife and I were talking a few days ago and to say, it would be really nice if I wonder what happened with the world if for a 24-hour period, everybody stopped using their phones, emailing, texting, and just were forced. I do it every week. I observe
Yeah.
Sabbath on Friday night to Saturday night. We shut everything down, and it's magical only because you reconnect with people.
Yeah. And it's so one last consideration in this, and this is around AI, right? So technically, right, we should be really excited about the fact that you know, mundane tasks, right, that aren't particularly exciting, right? Like assembling something,
Yes.
on a conveyor belt or whatever. Um, they can be replaced by machines,
Yep.
right? And that's wonderful. But what it should do, therefore, then is allow us to have way more interaction with one another. The challenge we have is that we don't traditionally pay to have an amazing experience at the front desk, right? And so we're going to have a values and shifting conversation as a civilization. That's like literally what we're stepping into. We're stepping into a who gets wealth based upon what? What is it that is merit, right? And to what degree? And don't get me wrong, again, I'm a capitalist, so I absolutely believe people need to show forth merit. But the system will now be a system where to teach a human to fish, the fish are controlled by other humans. How many are out there to catch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating, these topics are so important because we are shifting, or we're going to be asked to shift. And if we don't shift, if we don't, we have a real risk to a very large number of humans really not being included at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting left behind. I mean, AI is our generation's version of the Industrial Revolution. There are parts of it, to me, it's terrific and terrible, right? Or terrific and terrifying, maybe. I mean, there's parts of it that are just fascinating to me. And the example you cite, I think, makes perfectly. It makes great sense. Those mundane tasks that may just become more efficient doing it through AI or what have you. But there's been there's been a dramatic change in um, the way people learn when you think about over the last generation. People, you had, when I went to school, I mean, I don't want to keep sounding like an old fart, but certain things, like you had to learn. Some you had to memorize, which was some ridiculous, but some you had to really learn fundamentals of learning. And then with the advent of the internet and being able to search, it went from being able to learn your times tables, or whatever it was, to being able to um, find the information.
Yeah. Just
Go
in
into
time learning. Just
Yeah,
in time learning.
just to go to be able. You didn't have to really know anything. You just had to know how to find it. And now you've gone, so that reduces your brain function, I believe. And then now we've gone to not how to just find it, but just how to ask the question.
Hmm.
Go into Chat GPT or whatever now, so you don't have to know anything. You don't even know how to have to find it. You just have to know how to ask the question. And so that, to me, like, ultimately, stop using a muscle, it's going to deteriorate. I mean, it's just the evolution of time. So that part is the terrifying part to me. The terrific part is that it will bring some really good advancements, but I think the human, the relationships will suffer. I hope I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting because, again, it screams for spirituality, morality, love. And here's what I mean by that: the curators of the technology, the person who creates the AI, right, working together with others to develop, let's just say, a teaching software, right? You almost have to really observe the humans and see, what are they not developing? What are they developing? Let's be sure they have this, right? It almost creates the science of humanness, right,
Yep.
as the science for all of us, which are things that, when I say spirituality, I'm talking there about really curating the very best human, right? The best that should be the goal, right? Like, of living in a village, is that you want all the humans to really enjoy their best lives and become
Yep.
their best selves. So the fear, I think, that we all have is the fear of ourselves, the fear of humans that would take advantage of other humans, the fear, right, or not care for other humans, or even program humans to do bad things, right?
Yep.
What you realize is these are all microcosms, right? And then AI can take it to another level. We're already seeing that with the way some children are being exposed to certain messages, and then we're getting results in society
Yep.
that we're like, are we sure about this
Are
one?
we sure we're doing this? Yeah, like, are sure we exactly? Are we sure that this is what we want to be teaching them?
Yeah,
And
there's the Native American tribes, I believe they always said, particularly Northeast, they were structured around the concept of, is this going to be good for 7 generations from now?
right.
Right? That sort of leadership is something that I think we desperately need to consider.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it is. I'm not going to be around to know, but I'm not sure that it is. I think with the that you alluded to earlier, it certainly has its place, and the adaptability or the application of AI, and to a large extent, it's a buzzword that even in this short period of time is becoming drastically overused. The frightening part of it is, what was advanced in AI 3 months ago is antiquated today. Like, the speed at which it's working is like, it's absolutely frightening. The flip side of all of it, and I'm a big proponent of technology where it makes sense, but I think the flip side of all of it is that there is going to be phenomenal opportunities for people to run the other way, and by that,
Yes.
I mean re recognizing that all these things, AI and efficiencies and what have their place, but those that are able to really provide good human connection, good experience, a good customer experience for someone walking into your store or buying your product, or a good back and forth with an employee in a conversation, or having them come to your, having a get together at your house for all your employees. Those type of human connections are really going to stand apart drastically as the world gets more technologically advanced. And so I think it presents itself with a phenomenal opportunity. I have this all the time with students who are looking to buy business that I'm teaching, and I show them, and I talked about it earlier. I said, you put me in front of a business owner and I will have a infinitely better chance of ultimately buying their business than you, even at a lower price in terms, than you will if you don't make that human connection with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because so I think so there are some offshoots that I think are going to be fantastic. Some of them will be terrible, but I think there's also, it creates some fantastic opportunities when you talk about spirituality, morality, and just
Yeah.
that human piece.
Well,
I think there'll be great opportunities.
I agree. And I think that that really results in kind of bringing us back to where we started. The opportunity for entrepreneurship, right? It screams entrepreneurship. It
Yes,
screams go forth and take tools and create something that you uniquely address in the world. And that I think is actually the greatest fear, the responsibility. People in our society, we've been raised in the factory, military, corporate model where I go and check in and do this thing for someone. And this revolution pushes people into what can I create?
yes.
What could I go do? Right. So, along that lines, as you do your own business, Richard, what would someone in our audience love to know about a weakness or challenge or obstacle that you face in your business, so that it's not all we think it's all roses, and it's not always roses. What's something that you're struggling with today in your business that you'd like to see improve?
Well, I think certain struggles that we face in our business, and we have a thriving business, or but you have your challenges. I think as far as an entrepreneur is concerned, especially for those who are even considering it, I think one of the most important things is you have to be able to embrace uncertainty,
Mm.
because there are so a challenge in my business. Well, we always have challenge with people. We always have challenge, recruiting, training, and retaining good people. It's always a challenge. We focus on it. We really want to empower people. So I think that's always, I'm getting new customers, of course. But I think from a, let's say, a macro sense or an overarching theme of things that we face in our business, that we deal with it well, I think. But I think entrepreneurs need to learn how to deal with it, is this idea of uncertainty. Because when you're an entrepreneur, like, the reality is, if you every entrepreneur has gone to bed on a Tuesday night, have no idea how you're going to make payroll on Friday. Like, those are type of things that happen. It's just part of entrepreneurship, and embracing uncertainty, knowing that, be able to take a step back. How long do I have to make a decision? Make a good decision. Don't have these knee jerk reactions. But this concept, if you could embrace uncertainty in business, I think it really helps you look at your business properly, not make these fast, stupid decisions, whether we with personnel, clients, whatever the case may be. I think that's a challenge that, we're always working on, gotten really good at it. But people that are considering the world of entrepreneurship need to be aware of that, because it's just, I'm sure you have it every day. It's like, customers leave, customers go, a vendor's factory burns down. I mean, this, pardon my French, this shit just happens, and so you have to
Yeah.
you have to get used to it and deal with it.
No, that's great, great advice and a great insight. As we wrap up, can you share one other thing that you think, hey man, I learned this the hard way. If I could give you all some sort of advice, this is the piece of advice I would share with you.
Okay, my advice now might have been different than 20 years ago, but I've seen this. The one thing, well, as it relates to the world of entrepreneurship, I would tell people that, what, this is very doable by anybody. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not just reserved for rich people or big companies. But the one piece of advice that I would give people is, try to align yourself with people that have solved the problem you're faced with, as opposed to hanging around with people that have the same problem. I see this in these forums and these platforms where people are, whatever it may be, someone's trying to solve a problem, or someone's trying to buy a business, or someone's trying to figure out how to become a reseller on TikTok or whatever. And they're all in these communities, and they all have the same damn problem. And so it's like they're asking questions and hoping for answers from people that haven't solved the problem, versus saying, go to someone who solved the problem. Go to someone who, attach yourself to someone who is already at where you want to be. People
Mhm.
are generally helpful. People that are accomplished generally want to help people. You have the odd ass who doesn't, but by and large, people are helpful and they want to help. So you've got to associate with people that are going to drag you forward, not drag you backwards. And so, to me, and I see this on the Reddits of the world, and all these things. They're all bitching and moaning, and they all have the same problem. No one really helping each other. It's like the pity club. So because the easiest way to be successful in the world is the oldest formula: is find yourself someone who's already done it successfully, and just copy them or have them mentor you. So that would be like, I see less and less and less of that. And I would love to see more and more and more of that. Attach yourself to people that have solved the problem you are trying to solve.
I think that's so true. I will also say that there are a lot of it's a process. You may
Yes.
think someone may say they can help you, and you got to kind of learn and see, and then you may find, hey, I'm full of a room of other people that aren't solving this problem. I need to change rooms, right?
I
So
need to change rooms. Correct. Yeah.
yeah,
And and we talk about rooms. It's what we talked about right from the beginning was, the early days, I always wanted to be the smartest person in the room. And
yeah,
now I feel like if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Like you got to be in a
right.
room with much smarter people. And then by default, you're going to just get smarter and they're going to drag you
Yeah,
along to better places.
yeah, and hopefully your frequency will elevate, and you'll be in a better place.
Amen to that.
Um, and you know what? And that's what so much of this show is about. So I love having these conversations that we're not having, because it just gets and expands the dialogue.
Right.
And my hope is that listeners will tune in and feel more expansive in their thoughts around these types of topics. I do want to remind our audience, if you want to learn more about Richard Parker, you can check him out on richardparker.com, richardparker.com, to get more information about how to buy or sell, or even just curious about the topic regarding a business. And I really want to thank you so much, my friend, for joining me today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I enjoyed your questions immensely. It's nice. I've been on hundreds of podcasts, and most of them are sort of black, white numbers, not or strategies or whatever. So it's really nice the direction that you attack things, and from a spirituality and morality perspective, and really nice thought provoking questions. Put me on the spot a little bit, which I really enjoy. But the back and forth banter was very cool. I really enjoyed my time with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we hope you enjoyed this show as well, my friends. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.